Hello, everybody. Just take a moment to take everything in, because there's a lot going on, as everybody knows. Good morning. Thank you, Ty Hudnoff, for the music to set the mood. Test. Hello, Ernestine, Marie, Chanda, Anna. 16 people in the house. So I thought I'd jump on. It's so funny because looks like I came on at 11:11, and then I turned it from the screen that was on at the 1 minute 44 second mark, and then when I started talking a second ago, it was at the 3 minute and 33 second mark. So synchronicities continue to show themselves. It's a whole different language. Yeah, I just wanted to jump on today because I felt like I needed to, or was guided to last night, to talk a little bit about Soulogy and SoulogyNetwork, Soulogy Fest, and what's going on. Telepathy is strong right now. No doubt. Very strong. Let's move these over here so they can be seen. Yeah, something like that. Sounds like this will be a biggie. Well, I think it will be a biggie because normally when I get on and I don't really want to get on, and I don't know what I'm going to say, obviously, other than SoulogyNetwork updates and Soulogy Fest updates. But when I don't know what I'm supposed to say, that's usually a biggie. Yeah. Danica, glad you came in. Kind of like when people come on the show, right? That's how they feel. Okay. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. I wonder if I should keep the music on. It might be better. A little calming influence in the background. Well, obviously there's, let's talk about what the hell's going on first. Obviously there's a lot of energy, you know. I mean, we can talk about full moons, new moons, eclipses, equinox. We got 2 eclipses in October. One's in a week. Got another one at the end of the month. I'm sure there's a full moon and a new moon in there. I'm not one to be tied to the celestial arrangement of the cosmos, so to speak. But there does seem to be a definite connection with these eclipses, equinoxes, solstices, and full moons. Okay, I'm going to turn the music off because it's now becoming hard to concentrate. I've just noticed some things since last night. You know, I think a lot of people have started talking about, you know, how the energy is, you know, or the waves or the solar photonic light or whatever the case is now coming in every day, it seems like. And it's weird because you see these patterns that we've seen all along as these waves come, and the way we act and the way people act. And not in a bad way, just in an observer kind of way. You know, you just notice these things. And I'm sitting with them, and I'm assuming that I'm to talk about these things because maybe people can relate, or maybe it'll get it worked out for me or whatever. And let me just say, I'm not like, you know, I'm not like in the dark night or even really feeling discombobulated as we can. And I'm just relaying this to share it. You know, my understanding is that when we share, that is, I believe, and I've said this for years on the show, that when we share, that's the highest code exchange we can have, because it's the part that we can all relate to. You know, I always say, you know, I can't prove to you and you can't prove to me that we're eternal souls. You can't prove to me and I can't prove to you that, you know, when this body expires, we're worm dirt or not. But what I can prove, and what you can prove, is that we both are sharing the human condition and the human experience, which in and of itself is enough. But to be actually in the human body during this time when there's an obvious or more obvious transformation happening internally and externally, and at the core of that is the true unveiling, which has nothing to do with conspiracies and disclosure of an external nature. It has to do with our own perception of self and of the universal, that equates to, you know, you could say this a lot of ways. I call it the brutal honesty of the soul, where it's just myself and the universe, and everything is on the line, moment by moment. Words like integrity, dignity, nobility, honesty, compassion, which means there's no judgment, particularly self-judgment. So there's this, you know, this space that we're continuing to find ourselves in that changes very rapidly. Now, I'm just trying to put the pieces together as I share this with my brothers and sisters, and then maybe we'll do an update on the Soulogy stuff. But you know, over the years, you know, doing the work that I've done, obviously not so much in the last, you know, 3 or 4 months, but spent a lot of time, as we all have, you know, picking up energies on social media, watching projections, watching the whole spectrum of emotions, and ownership and lack of ownership, and accountability and lack of accountability, and people, and all we've all done it. You know, people wigging out, and people finding themselves, people you know, pulling back and being in silence. I was in silence today for 90 minutes. That's all I could do. You know, when I woke up was do some gratitude affirmations as I do every morning, and then just sit with everything that I'd experienced, even the last 24 hours. And I have some different examples, and I don't really have anything. I never have anything put together, but I feel like that talking through these things will help me to get some perspective, and also hopefully help you all, and in some way I can contribute. And here's the contribution here. There are a lot of clearings happening from the seed source of many programs. As they are leaving, they are moving many things out of people's lives, Todd. Thank you for that. I like this comment too from Victor, and he says, what are you doing to help the energies today? Well, that's what I'm doing here. And I hope this works. But we'll see how it goes. And then somebody says sharing is caring. Okay. So, so I'm just going to try to mix all this together. I think we've all, in our own space, as these energies have come through, as they fluctuate over the years, there's been times that we've all been there, that we, you could call it, we seek externally for some type of balance, some type of understanding, some type of comfort, and let's face it, the uncomfortableness, the unknown, is not going to go away. And that's not a bad thing. What we know is not what is comfortable. Where we've come from, these programs that we're untethering ourselves from, those aren't comfortable, but they're known. And so, we're kind of in our uncomfort zone and want to stay there, or that's been the pattern, rather than go into our comfort zone, which is the unknown. And so I feel like that, this unknowing, which can be uncomfortable, is something that is part of the spontaneous, intuitive, natural nature of our life force and our energy, and it's not going away. And it seems to me to be important to become friends with the unknown, to become faithful with the unknown, and to recognize that with these waves, as these programs and self-depreciating perspectives of ourselves are okay, or these things that take away from our personal self-image and our personal self-love quotient are not permanent fixtures in the soul. They're not even permanent fixtures with the human being, because the human being is moving bravely forward, and with each step that we take, and each identity or perception or judgment that we let go of, to become more whole, we step into this space, and there seems to be a immediate reciprocation of higher sensitivities. And that was the words that I thought of right before, and I think I wrote it in the title. Higher sensitivity, right? Higher sensitivity. What is that? It's not just being able to see more from the higher senses and from the five senses being enhanced. Higher sensitivity is, somebody mentioned telepathy a minute ago, is really spiking. It's having all these, various frequencies that have been glimpses and flashes start to come in more and more and more, and remain more and more and more. And it's a little bit unsettling, because it's bad, There is no bad. You know, we got this thing. It's just unfamiliar from the memory banks that we've had, which we're not accessing our natural nature. You might put it that way, because as we go further, they become more familiar. You know, what is that? What is the more familiar? What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about our experience as human beings is changing so rapidly. And it kind of comes down to getting comfortable. At least this is my take on it. I'm not saying this is the gospel for everybody, but it's, you know, being present beyond the words. It's operating from the spontaneous and the intuitive and the creative and the imaginative, and it does take courage, and it takes love, and it takes heart, and it takes aligning our free will with universal will, basically, or universal flow, or however you want to put it. It's kind of like that analogy that you can hear sometimes in these circles where, you know, life is a river and it's flowing like a you know what, and we're hanging onto the bank, and ultimately, as the waters rise and recede and the waves come, we realize that we have no choice but to dive into the middle of the river and just do and flow with it, you know. And it's wild and it's strange, and it's you know, but it's also inviting, and you know, it's maybe a bit futile of an attempt for me to try to translate what's going on, but I'm one person, one soul, and a human body that's trying to put all this together. And so I think we spend a lot of time talking about, we obviously did for many years, talking about the shadows and doing shadow work, and it was necessary, and it was brutal, and it was intense, and we all had dark nights of the souls, and many people had traumas. And this is another thing that's kind of creating an amplification now, is that there's a lot of that going on now, and I'm going to cover some of that that I've been privy to with people, and kind of weave this thing together. But the difference is now, it's the way we perceive and proceed through the experience itself, rather than being kind of weighted down by the old programming of shadows and of needing to heal and all this stuff. We have a different perspective, and I'll give you a quick example now. And it involves three people in our circles, and that's Mindy Chi, and I'm not going to say anything that would be inappropriate, because they've been very public about what's going on with them. So it's Mindy Chi and her beautiful partner, and Mindy's beautiful partner, Alessandra Gaia, Randy. Some of you know her as Randy, and their star child, whose name is Seven. You know, these star children are amazing, and I think they're really going to help us to equalize and maintain our balance and find our balance, like the pure tuning forks that they are. So, but in this example, and I've got a few more, you know, this happened very suddenly. I've known quite a few people, and I'm sure you have, that have had sudden transitions, and Mindy's still with us, and prayers and healing that she remain with us. But anyway, 2 or 3 weeks ago, just very suddenly, she was diagnosed with, from the human perspective, what's called cancer, at a very critical and you know, significant state. And they put a GoFundMe together, and I'd like to help them to spread awareness about that, And we can talk more about that later, and you can look on their page, and I'll probably put some stuff up, and I've even proposed to do a show on it, and I'll tell you why. Because in the message I got from Alessandra, she told me, one of the things that she said as she explained to me the details of the situation this morning, which I don't feel it's appropriate to share those details because I don't know if those are public. I think it is public that Mindy is in a serious state, and it's created, as you can imagine, an energetic impact on that beautiful little family of that little triad of Alessandra, Gaia, and Seven and Mindy. But what she said to me was, I can see the codes coming in, something to that effect. And then, she went on from there. And really what she was saying is that she's looking at things from a higher perspective. And even through this intensity, right, which is pretty amazing. Get this off here. Oh, wait. Boom. And I was really impressed with that. It's 3:33 somewhere, Kirsty McNiven. Thank you. But, to hear that from somebody who's going through what they're going through with such suddenness that is popped up literally out of nowhere, because if you've ever tuned in to their pages, particularly Mindy, because she posts a lot, and she doesn't say a lot, she posts a lot of pictures, and the pictures are full of love and nature, of Randy and of Seven, that beautiful star child, and of Mindy and the love that they have with each other. I just was really impressed that she put that comment in there, that they're handling it like souls, and they're handling it with a knowing implied in her words of no fear, and that's, when I say no fear, I don't mean that they're not scared, but that there is no such thing as death, right? It's powerful. Now, also there's people that I've known, particularly in the last year or so, in the last few months, people that some of you've known that have transitioned very, rapidly. We've got our friend Nicole Menchaca, who's one of the producers on Soulogy, and I spoke with her yesterday, and she's been public, so I'm not saying anything out of turn here. Her brother's in Louisiana. She lives in Texas, and he was, I believe, on a four-wheeler, and he got into a bad wreck, and there were some severe complications, so he's, for the last week, been on the borderline of transitioning. Today's his birthday, and I look at and I tell myself, don't be, too hard on people. Don't be out of compassion, and hear me out on this, because I look at these things. I look at the people that have transitioned. I look at the impact it's had on their families. I look at all the things that people are going through that are far, far worse than most. And I gain a perspective, I would say a higher perspective, on where we've come from and what we're letting go of. And what I mean by that is that all this little stuff that we worry about, all these things that we complain about, all these projections that we have, all these externalizations, all these things that suck our energy out, that siphon our energy out, is not because of reptilians, not because of archons, it's not because of any of that stuff. It may have been at one time because we gave consent and we didn't know and we were unconscious, but now it's all on us. Life, living, is the reason that we're here. It's the awareness that we've sought to gain is to understand that in this present moment, this is all I have. And the universe does not take well to absolutes thrown upon it, such as, okay, I accept everything but this 3% over here, right? Those things I block, and I put up boundaries, and I this and that. This is a 100% free soul mirror of you speaking in a free energy, free universe that is anchoring and expanding on this earth by the virtue of our thoughts, words, and actions aligning with universal will through our own free will. That's not some pious, new age verbiage. That's not some fluffy love and light thing, although light is light and dark is dark. It is the reality of feeling our way through this as things accelerate and gaining an opportunity and an invitation to look at things and apply things and walk the talk and refine and remix life force energy in a way that it's never been done before, because the one thing that we have that we didn't have coming into this thing, we had all of it. We had the Akashic, we had the lineages, we had the histories, the whole 9 yards. We had all of it, the intelligence, but the one thing we didn't have was the experience itself. And that is the gold. Living life, stop and smell the roses and tousle a kid's hair and savor what's in front of you. And does that mean, as I sit here and like many others, I feel that, and I know because I observe, and I observe myself and I observe others, as I'm sure all of you do, that we've all expanded regardless. The pain and the suffering is part of this experience that we've had on earth, the human condition. But as we expand our perception, our perspective, I should say, our consciousness, our hearts, and so on, we can look at these things as clues, as doors to open, as opposed to things that by our own choice deplete our energy. We can no longer point to anything external, whether it be physical or non-physical, whether it be purity, piousness, or fuckery. It's us. We're making this decision moment by moment to be in a place of uncomfortable balance, stepping into an unknown with, I would say, confidence. Confidence, if we can't have confidence and faith in the assurity of our eternal soul, then have confidence. May we have confidence in the sense that we no longer want to live back there. That we bless it, we hold it in reverence, we honor it, we love it. But we make a choice. We're making a choice. That's what we came here to do, to step forward. You can call it creating new earth. You can call it heaven to earth. You can call it a lot of things. But to have the confidence to say, you know what, I've made my choice. I'm moving forward, knowing that everybody will get to the same place, and that in truth we're all there. And it's almost like, click your heels together, and here we are. And that's kind of what we're doing. I had some experience this morning and a little bit last night, these downloads coming in that you really can't do justice to, as many of you, and I guess all of you know. It's more and more difficult to describe what's happening, which at some point when we get to the other side, we'll all be walking around in that perfect universal cicada silence tones, and communicating in that way. So, but in the meantime, we We want to help each other. We want to we want to share code with each other. And I forgot what I was saying. That comes with the territory, doesn't it? But I think what I was saying is that we can move forward, and we do move forward, and we have been, and we will continue to move forward. And as each step comes, it comes with a feeling. We're feeling loss. We're feeling different things. We're feeling in our body. We're feeling purging. We're feeling integration. We're feeling tired. We're feeling all kinds of different things. But I would also say that those things are diminishing in their uncomfortableness. You might even say in their pain, as a result of our expanded understanding of what we are, who we are, and what we're a part of. It becomes easier because our view of it changes. So when I got this is what I was talking about. I got this stuff coming in last night and today especially, was that, and I know this sounds like we've said this and heard this 100,000 times before, but it's hopefully I can get it out there to the depths or close to the depths of what I received, because it was very, very palpable. It was literally with the five senses and the higher senses speaking or receiving or both. But everything here is me. Every person, every place, everything. And everything I think of those things, which are me, creates this reality. And you might say, well, oh yeah, we've heard that, we know that, yeah. Well, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. I don't think that the shadow work, the programs, the deprogramming, the reprogramming, I don't think it has anything when it comes to acclimating and aligning with our true nature. I don't think it has anything on getting into alignment, getting familiar, getting comfortable, operating from the spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and courageous. This is a challenge. It's a challenge to get out of the ethers and get out of the stories of what we can channel and what clairs we have and what abilities and sensitivities we have. It's a challenge to bring all that into the body and say, now I'm going to live as a human being from a human perspective's crazy world, and see this through the eyes of my soul and apply these things. And I believe this is what we're doing. And I believe that as we do this, we literally live in a dream world, or something that is more like a dream, or when we're in dream state from those times that we recall that we are, such as lucid dreams. I'm talking about, in a dream where you see the pixelation, or in the dream where you see things moving that you wouldn't see in the old world, so to speak, or the messages, or the way things come through, or the people that pop in. I feel like that this is what we're doing. And so this information, this download, this intel that came in last night and today was basically saying this is all your simulation. And that word's to me a bit insensitive, because I don't believe there's anything that a soul does that doesn't have the purpose of the divine, and could be explained in simply the reverent engagement of universal experience into something that's not been experienced before. And that's the universe, and we're doing that. Everything we do is something different than we've ever done before, And we might say, well, we're multidimensional, and everything's happening at the same time, and I get that. But why have we been conscious 99% of the time in this state, in the awakened body, the physical body? And knowing more and more every day that we have other lives, that we have a past and a present and a future and a parallel, you might say. And those things are coming in more and more and more. Imagine where you were a year ago, where you were 2 years ago. Another thing that we look at too is we can clearly see more and more every day these loops that come around. I've talked about the things in my life, like the cycles that have occurred in my life. I've talked about how, on these very streets, and I ended up here in this apartment by chance, right? By chance, I ended up here in my daughter's apartment. She didn't need it. It happens to be, one block off the street that I walked homeless for much of the time 12 years ago. It happens to be one street over and two houses from my grandmother's house where I started coming here in 1973 or 74. It happens, in the cycles and the loops and the patterns of, I hadn't seen or talked to my mom, and a lot of people can relate to that, for 6 years. And, family is where a lot of these disruptions and distortions and karmic things had to be worked out. And then to reunite with her in May, and then to be on an incredible journey of expansion in self and in connection with another kindred soul. She went to Sedona with me at 84 years old. And she not only did she experience activations, but she activated people. And this is what we do for each other. But getting back to this thing that came in last night and today. And again, it's so hard to try to speak of these things, but it's seriously non-judgment. And the responsibility, because it's really difficult to look at something and just go, oh, that looks like that. The minute we start to go any further, it's pretty, it's ugly, I do it another way. What I was getting is almost like, you could say, being accountable, being responsible, being conscious of my thoughts about anyone, any place, anything, and understanding that my thoughts are directly affecting whatever that is that I'm focusing on, and kind of formulating through my thoughts, words, actions, but thoughts, where it starts. If I think people aren't awake, then people aren't going to be awake. If I can hold this perspective for extended periods of time, for longer and longer periods of time, and I can look at people, and I can look at places, and I can look at memories, and I can look at channelings and traumas, and I can look at these things, understanding that I truly, can't change anything that's happened, but what I can do, and that's up for debate, but more later, but I can, from this point forward, see all things as me. That is unity consciousness. It's oneness. It's feeling things and still feeling those things, but not walking away from what's been felt with an externalization or a judgment or a story or a projection, but saying, wow, that was how that worked. It was there, and now I can make a new choice, and that choice is to look at everything to the best of my ability, like the most important thing. All that stuff that I'm looking at, but also everything in here, everything in my body. We had Linda Christine on yesterday. She just put a book out. It's called Finding Zen with Cancer. And 10 years ago, yesterday was the last day that she had received chemo. And her, the way she told her story and the way she talked about it was really impressive. It was very human. It was, wasn't all this, woo-woo stuff. It was real down to earth and funny and raw, and soft but powerful. But she said toward the end that and she was writing the book now 10 years after her last, or approaching 10 years, because it was 10 years yesterday, approaching 10 years of the anniversary of her last chemo. And she said that while she was writing the book, she had to take a break for like 3 months. and she had to take a break for 3 months because her body started to, I guess, remember or to fall into that kind of that bandwidth of that experience, and she started to have some things go on in her body, and then she said she realized that she hadn't told her body, she hadn't talked to her body, she hadn't said, hey body, I'm writing a book, you might start feeling some things, you might start having some remembrances, it might create some things within that were created then. And so she did that for about 3 months and then worked it out and got the book finished. And I asked her, I said, through this experience, and which has been 10 years yesterday, right? I said, were you talking to your body? I mean, she went into it 10 plus years ago with early stages of stage 3 cancer, which she explained yesterday is when the cancer starts to spread out into the body, which is very serious. And then over a few months, she came out of it. But I said, from that point, were you speaking to your body during this recovery, during this transformation? And she said, not until I wrote this book, and I had to shut it down for 3 months because I didn't realize that I hadn't told my body what was going on. We have multidimensionality, and we've all had our own ways. And don't underestimate, just because some people see galactics or angelics or elementals or whatever, don't think for 1 second that you're not connected to these things. Some of us remember things different. Some of us set up from our oversoul or our soul not to remember certain things. I can relate to that. I know some of you can. But we've had a lot of focus on the multidimensionality, Atlantis and Lemuria and Avalon and Arcturus and Lyra and the Orion Wars and this, that, and the other thing, right? But our true multidimensionality also includes what we might consider more associated with the human being. And our body is the center of it all. Our body is soul. And it's that omniscient, omnipresent. It's literally spirit flesh. This is what we've done at a cellular level, at atomic level, at a subatomic level, in our bones. I mean, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. I mean, I remember over the years people coming on the show and they're talking about my angel wings are coming out, we'll be flying. I'm not taking anything away from anybody because we're all grasping at straws trying to understand and explain this. But imagine the human being being that which we are when we're in meditation, when we're out of the body, so to speak, when we're in lucid dream, when we're activated, when we're astral traveling, when we're soul traveling. We can do that all here. Every single bit of it and more. And the reason there's more potential there is because, as many people, many credible people, including Franco, and many people that have come on the show have said over the years, this has never been done before. And when I say the universe is sitting on the edge of its seat, waiting to see what we're going to do and how far we're going to take it, I will stand by that. I will stand by that as the gospel. I will. Because in my heart, I know that. I know that we are all coming to the realization more and more every day. This wasn't a punishment. There was no sin involved here. There was no, these are all narratives, fallen angels, Anunnakis, the wars, everything. These were all part of the simulation, the superficial, to hide us from ourselves. The only thing, it's like the placebo effect. The only thing that stands before us is that which we believe or don't. And somebody mentioned surrender a minute ago, and somebody, I think I talked to yesterday, was mentioning, this. I have a phrase that I use in some of the Soul Speaks, which is nothing's everything. And I know a lot of these things that we've heard, and they've been written in the sacred text, and certainly been rechanneled and remixed and resurrected and shared. You could just say from 2012, but certainly for some people longer than that. Some people like Patricia Cota Robles from the 60s, and Pamela Johnson in 1987, and a lot of people have been doing this a long time. But these things. There is a simple, profound truth to some of these things. Knowing it isn't enough. To experience it is a blessing, and I would just say that for myself, I find myself more and more every day praying like I did when I was a kid, and not out of fear, out of genuine innocence and alignment, which is to say, help me, may I do those things of the highest and best. May I have assistance from within myself and my team, however you might word it yourself, to recognize the signs and the synchronicities and the new language and the new flow, because this new is the new of old. This unfamiliarity is strictly coming from the perspective of I'm a lowly human being, or I'm a small, what can I do human being, or I'm just a human being, when we know more and more every single day that that's not the case. We are that and all of that other stuff as well. So, I don't know, I know that one of the things that's happened too, obviously I'm pretty active, and I know a lot of people, and I collaborate with a lot of people, and a lot of people reach out to me, and I've talked about it over the years, especially the last 3 or 4 years, where I can't really get back to everybody. I can't always answer every message, and especially when we are super empaths that want to help everybody, and we learn that that we couldn't do that because it depletes us, and we learn not to blame other people because they're reaching out and they need a hand and this and that. I mean, this is a high level trigonometry cosmology that we're having to read these equations and create these new codes, and learning how to decipher and discern when to act and when not to act. And I think that's why feeling is so precious. Feeling, does it feel right? Where we feel with the heart, and we feel with the body, and regardless of what our expectations are, and regardless what our desires are, and regardless what our understanding is, we can bank ourselves. We can bank on it. We can say, this just doesn't feel right. No harm, no foul to whoever may be involved. You just say, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right for me to do that. Or to yourself, you might say that in your self-talk. I was privy to Lauren Gorgio. I know a lot of people follow her, and she puts stuff out, I think, almost every day. And there was a little sentence or phrase in her latest update, or whatever that is, on her page, and it kind of said everything that's going on. And then it said, and I can't remember the exact words, but I remember one, and it said, she said, this takes, and I'm just paraphrasing, I hope I get this right, what we are accessing is the ability to take, you could say walk the talk, the ability to take our consciousness into a level of embodiment and operation as a human being, functioning to the most mundane, right? That's a cool word, the mundane. I understood what she was writing, because if you look at the multidimensionality that we are privy to, and that we've accessed, and that we have embodied or understood, or whatever you want to call it, the human being looks to be the most mundane part of it. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to eat? Oh, I got to take a shower. Or I got to go to the restroom. These very mundane things that the human being does, that we don't have to do in our light bodies and other forms of us. And there's power in that. There's power in understanding and embodying that it is the most mundane part of our multidimensionality, and that is not throwing shade on the human. That's actually, in my opinion, pointing to the infinite depth of the universal design, to look at the paradox of what could be explained as the low end of our consciousness or unconsciousness, and that it actually can be flipped. We're talking about the earth is going to flip its axis, and that's how this thing goes down. But you know what? It's us flipping our axis. The earth flips its axis regardless of the roadmap of the stars and astrology and etc. It's all run by us. It's all designed by us. It all happens when we do the things that we do, as within, without. So, this goes full circle back to what I was talking about in terms of how we see things. I got on today, trying to pull some stuff together and figure out what the hell's going on. I'm supposed to come on it, then I put up a post. Well, I've got to go on. My soul's saying, you got to go on. I'm like, well, I don't want to go on. I want to just sit here and, have a mushed brain and be in zombie state. No, you got to go on. But as I was just preparing, taking a moment, I was scanning through the news feed, and I saw something that I see a lot, which I know for me a few years back, it was something I would have done. But we've probably all done it. But anyway, I saw this very high frequency, very, very high frequency person that I know personally, putting up an article about U.S. tax dollars and where they went. Now, I'm not throwing shade at that person. I'm just making a point. And the point is, we had to disclose. It was part of our awakening. And for some people it still is, and I understand that. But I think that in the circles that we find ourselves in, we have enough information to be able to walk the talk and embody, and to alter in the fashion that we all desire, by virtue of how we conduct ourselves. And what that means is, where do we focus? Not only what do we think, say, and do, how do we project our perspectives and perceptions, but not only, how we think of things, but also where we put our focus. It's where we put our focus and what's projected from what we're seeing. And what I mean by that is, if we think that the government's going to put up FEMA camps and round everybody up, if we think that, this, that, and the ugly thing over here, and the war over here, and whatever the case is, if we believe that, then that's what we get. And we've come too far. There's too many people out here that are building this new earth grid, that are walking hand in hand. There are groups forming, there are gatherings forming, there are communities forming, there are networks forming like Soulogy, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense in the world that we created and we designed. And so again, I'll go back to, it's like we are in our uncomfortable zone, okay? or let's just say we are in our knowing, we are in our known zone, and we call it our comfort zone. People say, well, you don't want to get out of your comfort zone. Well, you're not in your comfort zone. You're in your uncomfortable zone. You're uncomfortable, and you're in that uncomfortable zone because you know what it is. We don't want to, well, I'm going to say we don't want to because we're doing it. We start to move another direction, and that's the unknown. That's the unknown. That's the holy womb, the holy darkness, the mother's womb. That's where we create the Vesica Pisces, and we birth new earth and new creations. So if if we are going to stand pat, or if we look at the math, how, somebody said at the beginning of the show, how are you going to handle the energy today? Well, if I look at the programs, the patterns, and the behaviors, and that includes how I think about things at its core, that keeps me in the known space that actually makes me uncomfortable, okay, then I would have to do something different to step into the unknown, where I will find more comfort when I get to the other side, you might say. And so for me, it's become, no matter what anyone says about me, no matter what anyone does or thinks about me, you know, no matter what goes on the peripheral, because I am and you are the eye of the hurricane, I can be accountable, responsible. I can be the God that I am. And this is what came in last night, because this is all me. It truly is all me. And how do I know or not know that the very difference between the change in the world, the change in the people I know, the change in the place I live, the change in the level of abundance I have, etc., etc., how do I know that my personal maintenance, my personal functioning, my personal walk the talk type of thing, you know, my personal embodiment, doesn't change everyone and everything around me? In other words, if I have an issue with somebody, let's look at my mother, right? My mother had certain perception of me, and I had certain perception of her. And both of them were misaligned. There were stories, there was narratives, there was ancestral lineage, there was karma, and we know this. Now, one or both of us did enough work on the inside to now experience a higher version of the other. It doesn't matter who gets the credit for it. It doesn't matter at all. This is the power that we have. And this is the mundane, I think, that Lauren lady was talking about. It makes crazy sense that to focus on what would look like the most mundane and dense aspect of us as the center of our intelligence and the center of our power, okay, and to conduct ourselves, to walk the talk, thoughts, words, and action, to take ourselves in that space between you and the universe, me and the universe, and say, I want the brutal honesty, you know, having honesty from other people and truth from other people and truth from the government and the religions and all that stuff. It's got nothing on what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, universe, tell me what I'm not seeing. Tell me, give it to me straight, with ease and grace if possible, but regardless, give it to me straight. Let me understand where my prejudices and biases and externalizations and projections and blame, because that's what it is, you know, where are these deficiencies where I feel like the universe isn't matching me because I'm so good, or where I'm not good enough, however you want to say it. Anything that we seek, we get. And that's the profound simplicity of that word mundane when you look at it compared to the multidimensionality. And here's a great thing about the mundane, the human, is that this is a known factor. This is a known factor. Every one of us has shared the human condition. We've all had suffering. We've all had pain. And if you want to ask yourself something, if you want to find out if you have a prejudice or bias, it's real simple in my book. Okay? You say things like this. Take polarities. Who suffered more? The woman or the man? The masculine or the feminine? Because if the answer for me or for you is one or the other, then we got work to do. And you could use a lot of different polarities. Who's better or worse? Russia or Ukraine, or Russia or the US, or whoever, the Illuminati or the 99%. Everything brought to the center. We know 0 point. We know this. But we think it's this thin blue line, and it's not. It's the entire space. And that's how the space responds to us. And that's how our field grows, is by taking in more and more and more and more frequencies to an ever-expanding vibration. It's true. And it's not, we don't, I'm not discounting modalities and processes and teachings and channelings and activations, but being that we all can sit here and say, one of the few things, if not the only thing, that we can all say with our human fully present and our soul fully present, and say, we all have this in common. We have all, you could say, for lack of a better word, suffered the human condition. We can all say that. Oh yeah. Hopefully we can all say, my pain's the same as yours. My understanding of love is the same as yours. Everything is the same. This is where, the separation is and the divisiveness is really planted. It's not about races, and it's not about religion differences and country differences. It's about our personal experience, where we say somebody's more of a victim, or more of a winner, or more of a loser, or myself. It doesn't matter if we're talking about something outside of us or we're talking about ourselves. We're creating this imbalance, and this is something that we know that we're here. We're here to do what we can to reach a higher potential, and by God and Goddess, if there's one thing that I can offer today, I hope that I can be of some positive impact to people, and that is, make no mistake. Whoever you are, whoever you can think of in your experience, historical figures, personal figures in your life, from one end of the spectrum to the other, okay? Every single soul that has walked in a human body has and deserves, and the universe gives credit, believe me, and we're starting to see we're starting to see the payoff on all the work that we did, you might say, over the years. But everybody here, including the bad guys, every single one is brave, and especially those that are in the physical body at this time. None more than others, but as I talk to my team, so to speak, my aspects, I always end with one thing, and it's not, being insolent. It's not being a smart aleck or a bratty kid. I just say to them, I am the boots on the ground. I am just like you. You're contained in me. I don't understand it all. You're inside of me, and you're outside of me, if it's Archangel Michael or whatever the case is. But I am the boots on the ground, and I will be heard. And these conversations are the conversations that I've had over the years, where they ultimately end in this space of beyond surrender, empowerment, and clarity that comes from me asking the question, what am I missing? What am I missing? And you know, and I know, just like that old Bible verse says, ask and it will be given. Knock and the door will be opened. And that's really what it is. And you know, I remember writing years ago, fear is my friend, because the fears were showing me the doors. And you know, that's the truth. And really, I guess I'll kind of wind this down. I was going to talk about Soulogy, but maybe I'll come on later today. Don't forget about the Soulogy Fest in Houston, December 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's going to be nice. It's going to be intimate, and it's going to be powerful, just as the other two have been and the other Soulogy gatherings we've had, including the ones we just had in Sedona. And don't forget about the SoulogyNetwork. We're putting a little bit more free material coming out on there pretty quick. We got an exciting meeting today, but you know, SoulogyNetwork.com. Don't hesitate to come check us out. You can register and not subscribe and be privy to more and more content. We'll have an app soon. But just to wind it down, like, it's so important. You know, it's so important to step up and share. And everyone that's come to this earth, especially during this time, which probably means they've come many times, has in a sense stepped up and shared. And so I would encourage, you know, everybody to be heard and to be okay with saying something dumb or projecting. You know, the intention of our efforts is where the real, you know, for me anyway, where one of the real barometers where you can gauge yourself in this, what we call ascension. You know, because here's the thing: we can do things, we can say things. Okay. Now they talk about the Trinity, the body, mind, spirit, or you know, that type of thing, heart, mind, spirit. But what about thinking, saying, and doing? That's a hell of a mundane trinity right there. That's a powerful mechanism. That's a physical accelerator within our body, that diamond technology. Think, say, and do. Because if we're really honest about it, look at what we're saying, look at what we're doing, say why. And the way that we can find that answer is by examining our thoughts and not denying it. And a good way to look for that is to see what you're saying to other people. Or you know, because I always say, you know, Todd, are you trying to convince somebody? You're trying to convince yourself. You know, somebody says, hey, you know, I see this or I see that in you, and I'm like, hey, you know, well, it's because this and that. You know, you're wrong or whatever. Anyway, the point is, we're sourcing. Our thoughts, words, and actions might seem mundane in comparison to the terms of mind, heart, soul, spirit, but our thoughts, words, and action are the physical manifestation, the physical density of our heart, mind, and spirit. Yeah. So give yourself some credit and give everybody else credit. Every single person. And if you feel like anybody has offended you, if you feel like that you're a victim, if you feel like somebody else is a victim, put both ends of those spectrum and bring them into a space where you know, where they are one and the same. And if you have to do it day after day after day after day, then that's what we do. You know, I talked about this privately to somebody a couple of days ago. You know, in the line of work that I've been doing, occasionally there's been some projections on me and on Soulogy. And it was like 4 years ago, I was doing a show and I had somebody on, and all these people started making comments about this person, and you know, there was an issue. And man, does that ever happen to y'all where your eyes starts, what the hell? Where your eyes start going like that with these ascension energies. And so during the show, I was like, I told the person, I said, hey man, they're saying stuff here. Do you want to discuss it? And that person did, and I thought that was very admirable. But anyway, it became this big to-do, and 3 or 4 people, 4 or 5 people, they started making videos trashing Todd, trashing Soulogy, and so I would say that was 2019 summer. I would say 2020, 21, 22, and I think maybe a little bit of 23, but not so much. I would pull these 4 or 5 people that made these videos and trashed me, because I knew them personally, and I'd collaborated with them. And I'm not knocking these people. I'm just making a point. I'm just giving you a little, like maybe something that will help you, that I utilized for myself, and I still do if I need to. And I am doing it actually with a couple of people, and I'm probably going to get them on the show here soon once I get to a certain point, if they'll come on. But what I would do is I would go to their Facebook pages, if they didn't block me, and even if they did, then I could go search them, search their name, and then go to photos, and it'll show you these people, even though they've blocked you or whatever. And what I would do is I would pull their page up, I would look at them, I would read their material, and I would just sit in this space of imperfection, and asking to see them as myself, and to feel that in my body. And for 3 or 4 of these people, it took me literally months, 18 months, 24 months, I don't know exactly, but it was just part of my routine every day, and every day I would take it as far as I could. And so I find that to be a pretty good exercise, because the reality is there is no in between. Oneness is oneness, unity is unity, and there are no exceptions. And we all know the results of throwing an absolute down on the universe. Well, it's got to be this way. We all know that cognitive dissonance can run in our field, and even if it's at 1% or 0.001%, then we're still you could say we still have work to do. That sounds kind of harsh, but because we certainly have to respect everybody's path. But anyway, having said that, I just like to close out and say to everybody, we're working hard at Soulogy. It's crazy because it's in this new energy. There's nothing set in stone. It's not comfortable. It's stepping into the unknown, jumping onto the network in March with the downloads. I feel like was something that was paralleling the growth of the collective, our own little small mirror, that everybody's included, even if you don't like it. Everybody's in Soulogy, because it's just another name for the Holy Spirit or life force energy, whatever you want to call it. But we're working hard. Some people might look at it and say, wow, that's kind of disorganized or whatever. But people that can read energy, see what we're doing. There's, how do you have 20 shows come on and added to the lineup, and not one has fallen out? They all exhibit this common thread of energy, of Trinity. Are they all the same? No. Are we human? Are they human? Yes. I mean, do we have work to do? Yes. But there's something that is congealing, that's become cohesive, that's moving towards kind of a synergetic to cross a synergetic threshold. It's not just Soulogy, it's not just these producers, it's not just a Soulogy Fest, it's this world. And the great thing about the Soulogy movement is that it is about physical creation, physical and non-physical fusing to create things that have a greater bandwidth, that have a greater scale of visible light, that have a greater expanse of sensitivities included, or higher sensitivities, or higher frequencies. And it's a beautiful thing. Does it take away from the fact that Mindy Chi and Randy and Seven are going through what they're going through, or Nicole and her brother and their family? Does it make these things easier? I think it does. and not in the old way. Because if you were here at the early part of this broadcast, I was talking about a message that I got from Alessandra that was detailing on a personal level what's happening with them now. And it was a remark that she made that really impressed upon me the value of what I'm speaking of, and that is, she said, I can see all the code coming in. And she could say, what she was basically alluding to and saying was that she has seen things for what they are, regardless of what they might look like to the human eyes only. And that's pretty powerful. And I feel like that Soulogy, through its conversations, through its shows, through the music, through the art that's expanding and becoming a bigger part of the platform, I feel like that it's different versions of this Trinity energy. And the Trinity energy is not something that's just these three little components. Remember the value of the 3, 6, 9, right? So these three components that seem to be the base of the Trinity, it's always growing. And that's why a long time ago, when the downloads for Soulogy came in, I heard, and I've said it many, many times in speaking and in song, that adding additional frequencies to an ever-expanding vibration, you could say adding endless frequencies. The universe does not divorce itself from anything, and we are made in the image, and it would only make sense that when we align that reality by our free will with that which is universal will, that only good things can happen, right? I hope this has helped somebody today. Kind of helped me a little bit. I just feel like that, we're moved to do certain things. I haven't been on as much the last couple of months because there's been a lot of stuff going on, but I fully, I've got my second Soul Speaks 5D since I got back from Sedona is tomorrow with Sarah Reamer. I'm going to be on with Nicole Menchaca today, brave sister whose brother is, on the borderline of transitioning physically. I told her that, if you decide not to come on, then that's perfectly understandable, even if it's the last second. She said, I want to show up. I don't want, like a lot of, sympathy, kind of like, what I mean? Like she wanted, if she wants to show up and she wants to be raw and she wants to be real, and that's pure soul. And whether she does or not, I just admire the fact that she's open to that, even if she might have to change her mind at the last second. I'm going to go on Authenticity with Anna Toothman tomorrow, and I'm going to try to be as visible as possible as we head into the rest of October, November, and December, because I really feel like that's my calling, is to bring as many people together as possible, both every day and also to the network and to the Soulogy Fest. I feel like that, with the experiences that I've had with Soulogy, particularly the Soulogy Fest and other soul gatherings, and of course the work we've done online, that I can see the impact things of this nature have on the collective, and they're not to be discounted, because what we think is small is big, and we're in a place now since March 1st, in my opinion, that where two or more gather, it's extremely powerful. We're going to be looking at, we have 20 producers now, 20 shows, 22, something like that. We're going to be looking to add 50 to 70 more by the end of the year, and some other things coming out too that we'll be talking about here in the next few days. So having said all that, thank you for your continued love and support, contributions, subscriptions. Bear with us. We're building a platform that will be standing strong and expanding as it has since the day we started it, a little bit every day, because I think there's no question at all that as we come into the greater awareness and practice of as within, without, knowing that the little mundane things that we do are actually the most powerful things that we do, and they will change our external experience. And part of that will be things such as big tech, social media platforms, that type of thing. Although you may not see it yet, but you will. People are already talking about it. Won't be a frequency that we can sustain ourselves in. And SoulogyNetwork with its app, and with its programming, and with its infinite offering for anyone and everyone to come in and create a profile, to create a channel, to create a show, whatever they want to do. It's a place that's just simply mirroring the universal. It's infinite in nature, and it's free flowing. It's the free energy of the universe that the soul is, just kind of creating an energy complex that probably in a few eons will be one being that will come into whatever realm is created then, whatever playground's created then, that will teach people many things, because it won't be taught. It'll be all of our minds, all of our beehive intelligence leading the way, as some essences have taught us and led the way for us, or at least opened the door for us. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We've got some shows today, and let me just go ahead and tell you what they are and tell you what's going on. All of our shows are making one last round on Soulogy social media platforms this month. Next month, those are called our spotlight shows of the month. Those are the ones we've been sharing on social media. They've been 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of our shows. Now what we're going to do next month is these spotlight shows are going to be put onto the network, and they're going to be available for free. So like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 shows on the network are going to be considered spotlight, and you don't have to be a subscriber. The subscription is only $12.12 a month, $144 a year. If you're going to the Sology Fest, you get a free membership, annual membership with the ticket purchase. So that's a pretty good deal. So you can check that out at SoulogyFest.com. You can go to SoulogyNetwork.com. You can send me a message, an email. And like I say always, we do have some people stepping up to help us now. Like I said, if you've sent a message or an email, if you want to do a show, we've made a list, and we will get back with everybody. I wish everybody a wonderful, beautiful week, rest of the weekend, and next week, right up until the eclipse next weekend. May we all remember to go easy on ourselves and go easy on each other. Okay? So, peace out. Thank you.